Welcome to the Eureka Zone, the home of smart tools for smart people. The Easy Smart system lets you cut safer, easier, quicker, and better. This video will introduce you to the basic Easy Smart woodworking components. There are 6 components that make up the basic Easy Smart system. We are going to take a brief look at these components. Then we will look at their features and functions. We will see how they work together to allow you to make easy, fast, accurate, and safe cuts. Of the basic components, first and foremost is the Easy Smart guide rail. It is the base upon which the entire Easy Smart system is built. The guide rail lets you make accurate, straight cuts. The Easy Smart base attaches to your circular saw to adapt it to the guide rail. The anti-chip inserts AC1 and AC2 help provide protection against chip out. The Easy Smart clamps are used to hold the guide rail firmly to the material being cut. With the unique self-aligning Easy Smart connectors, you can join links of guide rail together to make any length of rail you need. Last, but definitely not least, is the anti-chip edge, or EAC. The EAC has 2 important functions. It provides protection against chip out by pressing against the wood beside the blade, and it acts as a guide to line up the saw blade with the cut line. Let's take a closer look at the features and functions of these components. The guide rail has several unique features. The guide ridge acts as a guide for the smart base. Here we see how the smart base fits over and rides along the guide ridge. When a circular saw is added, you get perfectly straight cuts. The unique self-aligning slots allow you to join 2 or more guide rails together to make longer rails. To join 2 rail sections together, slide 3 connectors into the 3 self-aligning slots in one of the rails, making sure that the center connector is placed so that the set screw is under the hole in the top of the guide ridge. Lightly tighten the top set screw with the provided hex wrench. Slide the second rail onto the connectors. To aid in self-alignment, leave a 1/64 inch to 1/32 inch gap between the rails. Lightly tighten the other top set screw, making sure that there is still a tiny gap between the rails. Turn the rails over, and with the other 2 connectors centered on the joint between the rails, lightly tighten the 4 set screws. All this may seem rather complicated, but let's see how easy it really is. In no time at all, you have a longer rail. The bottom 2 slots also provide connection points for the Easy Smart clamps. Place the rail on the wood, slide a clamp into a bottom slot, push it up to the wood, lightly tightening the clamp. Do the same on the other side of the wood, and the rail is now securely fastened to the wood. The rail's edge slots hold the EACs. The Easy Smart base attaches to the base of your circular saw. The large opening in the base is for the saw blade and the anti-chip inserts. This insert, the AC1, is employed when the saw is used off of the guide rail. It slides in from the front and provides anti-chip support on both sides of the blade. The AC2 is employed when the saw is on the guide rail. It provides anti-chip support to the outside of the cut, while the EAC provides it to the inside. There are 2 slots in the base that fit over the guide ridge. The slot closest to the blade is used for normal cuts. The other slot is used for bevel cuts. The Easy Smart clamps are easily adjustable to the thickness of the wood. Simply turn the knob to close the clamp on the wood. Since the clamps are captured in the bottom slot, they can be slid along the slot to adjust to the width of the wood. The Easy Smart connectors have a unique design that makes them self-aligning. When placed in a rail's self-aligning slots and the set screws lightly tightened, they align perfectly with the rail. The EAC provides anti-chip protection by applying pressure along the cut line when the rail is clamped to the wood. When placed against your pencil mark, it provides a reference for the cut. Let's set up the system. First, the Easy Smart base must be attached to the base of your circular saw. There are 3 ways to accomplish this. You can buy your saw from Eureka Zone with the base already attached. You can ship your saw to Eureka Zone so they can attach the base for you, or you can attach the base yourself. On the Eureka Zone website, you can find instructions, photos, and videos about installing the Smart base. With the base attached to the saw, we can now begin the rest of the setup. First, we have to trim the EAC to match the saw. This procedure will make the edge of the EAC align perfectly with the saw blade's kerf, and only has to be done once for each EAC. You will need a piece of scrap wood that is longer than the EAC. Slide an EAC into the edge slot of the rail. Position the EAC so that there is sufficient room at either end for the saw to be on the rail but not cutting the EAC. Place the rail assembly on the scrap wood and use the Smart clamps to hold the wood and rail together. Set the saw blade so it is about 1/16 of an inch below the top of the wood. Place the saw on the rail, but off of the wood. Start the saw and cut the EAC. Now we are ready to make our first easy cut. Measure and mark the wood for the first cut. Place the rail on the wood with the keeper part under the rail and the EAC near the cut line. Bring the clamps up to the wood and loosely clamp the wood to the rail. Align the EAC with the edge of the cut line on one end and tighten the clamp on that end, making sure that the EAC stays at the edge of the cut line. Do the same thing for the other end of the cut line. Recheck the first end, adjust if necessary. Place the saw on the rail with the guide ridge in the inner slot. Set the cut depth so that the blade is no more than 1/4 of an inch below the wood. With the saw back from the wood, start the saw and make your first cut. At the end of the cut, stop the saw and wait for the blade to stop moving before removing the saw from the rail. You are now on your way to becoming an Easy Smart woodworker.